Put our hands together, baby. Usually I'm just in the small section. No, that one too. Thank you. Thank you, the Executive Chair of Airports Fiji Limited, and of course, Co-Director, Honorable Ratu Katanivere. Thank you very much for your presence here, and also all the AFL staff who are here with us today. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, that as we said previously when we received the dividend payment from AFL, that AFL is the largest dividend payer to the government of Fiji. It has now reached unprecedented levels of payment. Last payment received was $45 million, and today again, as you've seen, received another $45 million. If you combine the amount of dividend that AFL has paid to us in the past 4 or 5 years, it's been more than AFL has ever paid before since its entire inception, which says quite a lot about the position that AFL is at and in. And indeed, I'd like to thank firstly the Executive Chair of AFL, Faiz Khan, for his unrelenting and unwavering commitment to the entire rehaul of Airports Fiji Limited, in particular the Nadi Airport itself. As you know, that we've also had a number of significant changes, in particular the renovations that has now placed Nadi Airport amongst one of the world's best. And of course, it's not us just saying it. There's independent third-party validation of it. We have international Skytrax essentially evaluating and saying that Nadi Airport is amongst the world's 10 best airports. That is significant because if you look at the other airports that are in that list, they're essentially airports of cities, and they're not even the gateway to those cities. But the fact of the matter is, some of them are, some of them are not. But the reality is those cities are much larger in its population than the entire country of Fiji. So this is a very, very historic occasion for us. I'd like to, of course, thank the fellow directors of AFL. Ratu is here with us, and of course Jeff Shaw, who could not be here with us also. We've recently made some further appointments to the board, and we look forward to their contribution to the AFL board. I'd like to very quickly highlight some of the significant changes that have taken place under the current leadership at AFL. Apart from the fact that we have a record dividend payment being made today and also previously, we're seeing a number of significant changes. Of course, the Honourable Prime Minister officially opened the renovation at Nadi Airport. Everybody's talking about it, both domestically within Fiji, or a lot of Fijians have come up to us even on the street saying how proud they are to see Nadi Airport the way it has been renovated. And of course, we're getting a lot of international accolades. The Nadi Airport is a gateway to Fiji, and people must realize and understand that when tourists come to Fiji, or indeed when they assess whether to come to Fiji or not, they look at infrastructure. So when you have a couple sitting in Sydney or LA or wherever, they actually look at things like, is the airport a good airport? Is it a clean airport? Will I be able to transit through the airport quickly? Are the facilities good? If I'm bringing my children, will they have good facilities available at the airport when we're actually departing the airport? Are there kids area? Is there a good business lounge? All of those things are taken into consideration. Because nowadays the travelers are discerning. They simply don't just look at the hotel itself, but they look at other infrastructure around it. Of course, we've now seen the other airports, the significant upgrades have been done. One of the key achievements, of course, is Rotuma. As you know, that for a very long period of time, right up till now, to fly to Rotuma was a chore. It's like flying overseas. It's still within our own country. It used to take a long time, and of course you only had the twin otters that would fly to Rotuma. Now with the upgrade of the runway, we'll have the ATRs flying there. We are just waiting for Fiji Airways to come back to us with a date as to when the scheduled flights to Rotuma will start. It will not only be good for those people who actually want to travel to Rotuma with friends and relatives in Rotuma, but also for Rotumans to be able to access the mainland Fiji itself, the Viti Levu, Vanua Levu. And of course, there's enormous economic potential for Rotuma itself. And that is very significant. I'd like to again thank AFL. If you look at the history, many governments have tried to expand the runway. There were numerous plans, various announcements made over a number of decades, but nothing actually had ever happened. So that is going to start, and we hope at least by the end of this month, or at least in September itself. The other one, of course, is the other one, of course, is that Lambasa, we have night landing lights that have already been installed. And again, we're just waiting for Fiji Airways to come back to us with the scheduled flights of night landings in Lambasa. It's enormous, news and good news for the people of Vanua Levu, not just those living in Lambasa, around Lambasa, but also around Savu too. It gives huge, enormous levels of potential for travelers, for example, who fly from North America and want to spend as much time as possible at, say, one of the resorts in Savu. They can simply catch a night flight back to Nandi and catch the flight to LA and go on home. So these are the type of synergies that will bring about, and those sorts of infrastructural changes will also mean significant, or at the very least, some very marked pricing in the airline tickets that will be emanating both from and to Lambasa. And again, I'd like to thank AFL for it, and of course the Ratu's assistants that helped facilitate the land that was required to ensure that we had the night lights all installed and also the approach lights. Nassori Airport is another significant matter. As you know, that we've now just the environmental impact assessment has already been carried out for the lengthening of the runway. As you know, nearly a third of the Fijian population lives between Nassori and Lemi. And if you take Nauru, and obviously a much larger population base, we have over 300 or close to 300,000 people living in this area. A lot of Fijians who travel overseas drive down to Nandi. So if we have the lengthened runways, it means that we have more direct flights from metropolitan cities coming straight into Nandi, not just Nandi, but also coming into Nassori. So it means enormous opportunities for Fijians traveling, and of course Suva is the capital of Fiji, and we have a lot of international meetings that are being held here. So it gives people direct access to the capital city of Fiji. On the other hand, of course, it means that there are other tourism opportunities in the central division, because people can access a lot more directly flights to Pacific Harbour, Tailevu, Rewa, all these places, enormous tourism opportunities that does exist for that. We are going to have the extension of the runway carried out, I understand, very soon. The contractor has been identified. And so once the runway is lengthened, then of course we'll have the upgrade of the Nassori terminal. And many people would, I'm sure, agree with us to say that Nassori terminal needs a significant upgrade. And it pales into insignificance when compared to Nandi. So these are some of the critical areas that Fiji Airports has been dealing with. Of course, we've had the name change of AFL into the trading name that we now see. Again, it's the branding of Fiji. We have Fiji Airways, we have Film Fiji, we have Investment Fiji, we have lots of other, we have Energy Fiji Limited. It's the whole issue of taking up the name Fiji and branding it, which is very, very significant for us. And we must continue with that, because the Fijian brand is a very strong brand, and we want to build it into a much stronger brand itself. I'd like to, again thank the board, in particular Faiz, for his significant input into it and his commitment to it. And we are thankful for the board's input into this. And we look forward to bigger and better things. I think the next challenge, of course, which we put to them, is that apart from Nassori, we are looking at some, hopefully some significant developments in Vanua Levu itself. The current airport, of course, there is some upgrades taking place, but we'd like to see in a few years' time, and we'd like to always have projects that will expand our economy, make it a lot more robust, and indeed make Vanua Levu a lot more part of the mainstream economic life of Fiji. And we do look forward to having a new site for the airport to bring in bigger aircraft to land into Vanua Levu. Once again, thank you very much, Executive Chair. Ratu, thank you for your contribution. And these are very exciting times for us, indeed exciting times ahead of us. And as we said, that the airport plays a very significant role We like the fact that it's also coupling up with Fiji Airways, which is our national carrier. As you know, just around the corner from the airport, we've got the Aviation Academy that's being set up, and that is set to open its doors by the end of next year. There's going to be enormous boost, not just for our tourism sector, but the entire aviation sector in Fiji. We'll have actually pilots, our Fijian pilots being trained there in the simulators, but also you'll have pilots coming from overseas. We already have, a number of airline companies making queries with Fiji Airways to say when will it open, because we want to send our pilots for training. Because as you know, after a set number of hours, pilots have to come back to the simulators. So these are very exciting times. I'd like to thank once again. It's a very directional for many of the other state-owned enterprises to follow the lead of AFL. If AFL can do it, then of course the others can do it also. But I'd like to also thank all the staff of AFL. There have of course been a number of changes made. We need to ensure, ladies and gentlemen, as we've said previously, that if we are to do well as a country, we need to ensure that firstly we invest in our human resources, and secondly that we appoint the right people for the right jobs. Because if you appoint the right people for the right jobs and you reward them accordingly, you give promotions accordingly, you do appointments accordingly, and you have a well-disciplined workforce, the entity itself will do very well. And in particular, when you have a state-owned enterprise, if it does well, it has enormous benefits for the country overall. So today we see that that level of discipline, that not just financial discipline, but also the administrative discipline being brought about, you can see the results of what's happening in AFL. You can see the results of what's happening in Nadi. So I'd like to thank all the staff for your dedication and your time. Please pursue your careers, please push yourselves. Please always ensure that you have that full level of commitment and dedication to the organization that you work for. Which if you do that, obviously you have a good working life. It also means that you yourself are contributing to the growth of our economy, because you play a very significant role in the major infrastructure that contributes to the overall well-being of our economy and of course the well-being of all Fijians. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, AG, for your remarks. If I can now... Okay.